Hello, and welcome to this episode of Faith Life. This is Pastor Roshan coming to you from Full Life Global Ministries, and today what I want to do is talk to you about why faith is important. Now, I want to begin in Hebrews chapter 11 and verse 6, where it says, "But without faith it is impossible to please him," that is God, "for he who comes to God must believe that he is, and that he is a rewarder of those who diligently seek him." You know, there are two things that are brought out here. First of all, a lot of people have trouble believing that God actually exists. All right? And I want you to notice the writer of Hebrews says, you got to believe that. You must believe. And the second thing that he says is you must believe that he also rewards. Notice he is a rewarder of those who diligently seek him. You are not going to come to God and he's going to add to your problems. So many people, say, well, you know what? I've got enough problems already to not to add God to all of them. Okay? Because people preach that God's going to come and he's going to test you and try you and all the rest of it. And, people don't need that. And the writer of Hebrews is saying here, you've got to believe two things. Number one, that he exists. Number two, that he is a rewarder of those who diligently seek him. Amen? And that is so key. One of the things that was happening to me at one stage, I was going through something, and these two words, must believe, jumped out. And God said, you must believe that I am working in the background. You must believe. You can't come to me without faith. Because without faith, it is impossible to please him. Amen? And I realize the importance of those two words, must believe. And I pray that you're getting that right now. Okay. Now, this verse is actually tied to a previous verse. I'll talk about this verse a little bit more in a moment. But I want you to notice that it is actually tied to the previous verse, verse 5, that says, by faith. So this verse is talking about faith now. It says, by faith, Enoch was translated that he should not see death. This is an incredible statement. And was not found because God had translated him. Okay, was not found. I mean, he just disappeared off the planet. It says, for before his translation, he had this testimony that he pleased God. So I want you to notice the reason why he just disappeared was because he pleased God, and one day God just took him home. Okay? That's the way I want to see it. But something else in Genesis chapter 5 and verse 24 that it brings out there, it says that Enoch walked with God and he was not, for God took him. You know why this statement stands out in amongst everything else Genesis says is because all the things previous to this talks about all the people that came on the scene and died. And, then there was this person and they died. But when he got to Enoch, it says he walked with God and he was not, for God took him. Okay? There was no Enoch died. Okay? And what we see from this is that Enoch walking with God is what pleased God. When you walk with God, it means that you are in fellowship with God. And when you're in fellowship with God, you are pleasing him. He is speaking to you, you are listening to him, and you are having a conversation with him. And I believe that that's, at the heart of all of our Christianity is our relationship with God. And that we have a vibrant relationship with God, that we are constantly talking to him, he's constantly talking to us, and we just walk with him all the days of our life. Isn't that wonderful? Amen? And I like that he said, by faith, Enoch was translated, that he should not see death. Remember I said everyone before him, and they died and they died and they died, but he was translated because God didn't want him to see death. I think that's tremendous. And I want you to understand, that's when Hebrews chapter 11 and verse 6 says, but without faith, it is impossible to please God. All right, for he who comes to God must believe that he is, and that he is a rewarder of those who diligently seek him. Now, R. Kent Hughes writes, notice that he does not say that without faith it is difficult to please God, okay? Or without faith you'll have to work extra hard to please God. It actually says, he categorically says that it is impossible. That is powerful. Also, William MacDonald says, no amount of good works can compensate for lack of faith. Did you hear that? No amount of good works can compensate for lack of faith. He goes on to say, after all is said and done, when a man refuses to believe God, he is calling him a liar. Now this comes from 1 John 5:10, which says, he who does not believe God has made him a liar. And how can God be pleased by people who call him a liar? Faith is the only thing that gives God his proper place, listen, and puts man in his place too. Well, that's it for now. Thank you so much for joining me for this episode of Faith Life. And remember again, 2 Corinthians 5:7, for we walk by faith and not by sight.